Well, from a remote location in Georgetown, Texas, we bring you a virtual SU Football Weekly. I'm your host, Carl Schoening, head coach of your Southwestern Pirates. Joe Austin joining me. And Coach Austin, I am happy to see that you are here doing well because let me tell you, it's been a month of a week and a half, hasn't it?
It has been. It's going to be a full month between games. And we're going to be, like you said, we're going to be remote thanks to our partners at the Sheridan. We don't want to be a burden to them right now. So I know you're at the SHN studios. I was able to fit the big backdrop in my dining room. So I told my wife, Marissa, when I set this up this afternoon, I said, welcome to your dining room for the next 5 weeks. She goes, yeah, no big deal. We've adjusted a lot more than that.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny. We probably would never do something like this, coming on a year ago now as we approach kind of the year of when everything started to get shut down. But now I think everybody's kind of used to this. So hopefully you guys back watching from the safety of your homes are enjoying us from, our homes. So obviously we still miss the fans. And fingers crossed fall, we can come back and do the SU Football Weekly at the Sheridan lobby as we have been the past few years here. But Coach, getting back to just kind of the topic at hand, has been a month since we played the East Texas Baptist game, and then obviously just a whirlwind since then. I remember, I think it was Wednesday, I messaged you. It's like, hey, weather looks kind of bad. Are we still on? And, you said the show must go on. And I was right there with you because I'm always all over the place doing broadcasts, and I was looking forward to it. But then Friday, it got canceled. And, from there, everybody just kind of had, as a very well-documented winter storm come through. Can you kind of just walk us through what's happened since, I guess, with that Louisiana College game and then the preceding Belhaven game that was supposed to be on Saturday as well?
Yes. So if I lose my place, kick me back in line because there's been so many things that have happened. So with the Louisiana College game, we did SU Football Weekly. The next night, we had some weather in Georgetown and power went out on campus, and we had to postpone practice. Eventually, enough power came back on campus that we could do a very abbreviated practice in the gym. While we're sitting in the dark waiting to start practice, I got notification that the school is going to be closed down the next morning for that Friday morning, which means that there's no travel. And the theory is, and it makes a lot of sense, if it's too dangerous for employees to drive to campus or commuting students to drive to campus, it's too dangerous for us to drive away from campus to go to Louisiana. So we were kind of in a holding pattern to wait and see if things would change and if we could get clearance to go later on in the day. And, the school authorities said it's not safe. And I told the team it's probably good that someone else is making that decision because as a football coach, just waited a year and a half to play football games. If it was just me, I'd have hopped in my car and went. So it was, they made a sound decision. It was a wise decision to postpone that trip. And then shortly after, like minutes after we made our decision, then all the other schools, and I think they weren't waiting on us. It wasn't like we were the first domino, but they were going through the same things. So all the other games in Central and West Texas in our conference got canceled. So the one game that happened that week was Belhaven played East Texas Baptist. So those two teams have played twice. 6 teams, including us, have played once. And 2 teams had a bye week the first week. Hardin Simmons and Louisiana College haven't played at all. So imagine that. These teams came back the beginning of January. We're going to be through February, and there's 2 teams that haven't gotten the game in yet. And as you said, as we were chatting before the show, welcome to a COVID season. But that wasn't even COVID. That was just a winter storm. So I don't know how long you want me to go, but that was the Louisiana College week. So
yeah, that's the
how
irony.
things ended up for that week.
Yeah, that's the irony that we were going to be doing the we had 2 games canceled, and it wasn't because of a 2-week quarantine or anything like that on an outbreak, because I know you guys work hard, and I was thinking about that. The Saturday game, which it turned out, I think, Friday/Saturday was kind of the last cold day, but it was above freezing Friday, if I'm not mistaken. It feels like forever ago now. It's like a distant memory. And then Saturday was more or less okay. And I think Sunday, you would think that nothing had happened. It got back up to 70-something and everything had melted. And I was just curious, what happened there with the midweek cancellation? Did that have more to do with the COVID testing protocols, or was that just because we didn't know when this whole situation might actually come to a conclusion?
You mean with the next week with the Belhaven game?
Yes, with the Belhaven game that's been rescheduled.
Right. So I think it was Tuesday, even before we got into practicing, the conference athletic directors and commissioners looked at the forecast, saw what was coming, and made the decision to postpone all games in the conference for that week. And of course, that triggered all kinds of conversations among coaches and athletic directors about, well, what do we do? It's already a 5-game season. We've already playing half a season. Most teams have lost 2 games. And so the football coaches met that day on that Tuesday. And to be on the text message thread of that, I mean, it got heated at times, but all 10 coaches, are chiming in with their 2 cents of what their campus thinks, what they've talked to their athletic director about, what they think their president would be supportive of. No consensus, of course, because everyone kind of has their own agenda and what's best for their campus, which we all understand. But the athletic directors met that week. They moved very quickly, and they added 2 weeks to the back end of the season. So originally, the Louisiana College game we thought was lost. We were calling that a cancellation. The Belhaven game we were calling a postponement because there was more hope of at least adding that week back since the whole conference scrubbed it. As it worked out, they added 2 weeks on the back end. So our new schedule is we're as scheduled this week for the 27th with Mary Hardin Baylor. Our natural bye week is next week. So funny, we're going to have another off week. And then we'll have 3 straight games, Louisiana College makeup going there, Belhaven makeup, them coming here, and then we'll do the cross-divisional playoff round to finish off the season. It's been decided by the athletic directors that March 27th is the hard stop for the season. So if there's any more weather cancellations, if a team has a COVID cancellation, then any further games will be lost. And I think that's more than fair. I think the athletes and the parents and the coaches have to see that as fair. They've pushed back 2 extra weeks. They've tried to make it as feasible as possible for us to get those games in. So I guess I'll tee up to maybe lead me to the next part, because once we canceled the Belhaven game, all heck broke loose in Georgetown.
Yeah, I have a semi list here of just kind of things that we talked about before the show that just shocked me because things did go crazy here in Georgetown. I live in San Marcos, and I was without power at my place from Monday morning when I woke up until Thursday night. But fortunately for me, there were no really kind of like pipes breaking or anything along those lines. But you guys have quite the issue, as in like you can't practice at night right now because your night lights don't work, to light up the field don't work. So you have no shower or water in your locker rooms and things like that. What have been just the hurdles and this aftermath of the winter storm that you've had to deal with? Because if I'm not even mistaken, you were saying that the football players, some of the team had to relocate because of issues in the housing. So I'll just kind of hand it off to you because you've been probably just in the middle of it, sort of a almost pseudo parent figure here for these student athletes that have been trying to move into this, just kind of handle this crazy winter storm. And I know you come from the north, but we're not used to anything like this kind of stuff. I know you've spent some time north of Texas, but this was all just brand new to us, and then we weren't prepared for it, as you know, and that had some consequences.
Yeah, I spent 28 winters in Iowa and Minnesota. Don't miss it. But I will say I do miss winter driving, as crazy as that sounds. And I last year I was blessed to be able to get a 4-wheel drive. My daughter calls it a monster truck. It's got the 6-inch lift and the off-road tire, so there was nothing stopping me. I know I grew up driving in it, and I had the right equipment, which worked out well because we had some friends that needed to have some elderly parents transported from homes without water and power, and I was happy to step up and, yep, I'll go get them. One, I think it was kind of fun, but 2, it needed to be done. Where I was living, I think was probably as bad as it was in Georgetown, in that we were without power and water for 3 days and without cell service. So we had to relocate for a day and a half to one of my wife's friends' houses. And what a blessing, because that's the only way I could get emails. Actually, our campus email was down, so we were using all of our private emails. But to even talk to an athletic director, to talk to the coaches, to pick up text messages from players, that's what I had to do. Is we couldn't be where we were. I was happy camping out and putting on a couple blankets at night, but we needed to get somewhere where my wife could be in communication for her business, and then where I could be in communication for mine. Because on campus, there were several pipes that broke, and it affected several of our players. In most cases, it was minor, but we have had some guys that have had to relocate. And of course, they let me know, which I appreciate. And there wasn't a whole lot I could do other than check in on them. But our campus was able to rally and get things going. The most damaged building on campus was the football building, unfortunately. And folks that have been there, players and parents and anyone that's watching has been to our building. It's got an open air breezeway that divides it. So as you're facing the building, on the left side, we call that the clean side. That's the right side's a clean side where the coaches are. The left side's a dirty side where the locker room and the weight room is. And the dirty side, the weight room, the locker room, training room, was undamaged by the flood, which is fantastic. We didn't have running water for a day or so, but that's all been restored. So our players have access. The weight room opened back up today. Athletes can get back in and train. Kingsley Edward, our equipment manager, can take care of our guys, keep everything sanitary. So over that breezeway where the pipes cross the building, it's insulated, but we found out not insulated enough, because right when the pipes enter that side of the building over our conference room, the pipes exploded and we were gone. The campus was closed, so the water ran for quite a while. And the first pictures I got were, I'm going to guess 3 inches of water throughout the whole building. The only floor drains were in the back corner in the coach's locker room. So it piled up. The folks in our campus facilities did an unbelievable job of getting in there and getting the walls opened. They peeled back all the molding because, of course, the drywall got wet. And they went through with a big drill and put a hole in about every foot. And they had heaters and blowers in there to prevent mold and to dry everything out. But it's unusable, and it's going to be unusable for the foreseeable future, understandably. There's a lot of a mess in there. Luckily, in our what I think is because of the floor drains, the coach's locker room in the back corner is unaffected. So we can come in the back door, we can get our whistles and change our clothes for practice and do those things. But otherwise, we're remote for I guess the foreseeable future. The last standing issue we're trying to overcome is that our lights got knocked out by the storm. And so electricians have been on campus, parts have been ordered. Hopefully by the end of the week, we'll get things worked out. We were still closed on Monday. Normally we practice on Monday, but that had to be an off day. We did meet. On Tuesday with no lights, we had to practice at 4 o'clock. So from 4 till you couldn't see anything, that's when we practiced. Tonight, and we have a great relationship with Georgetown Independent School District. Of course, we leased the stadium, Birkelbach Field, the largest stadium in our division, great place to play. And through our relationships and contacts, they're allowing us to rent a field tonight. So we're practicing off-site tonight. They're going to be getting going in just a few minutes. And as soon as we get done, I'm closing the lid on the laptop and jumping in the truck, and I'll meet them in the middle of warm-ups. So again, GISD and Jason Dean, their athletic director, and some of the other folks, Kim Hahn, we've worked with for 9 years, have been super kind to us. And so we've got a place to practice tonight with lights. Tomorrow, we'll be back out 4 to 6. And again, the reason we can't go 4 to 6 tonight is the classes run too late. The classes run till it just would be too late to practice. So Thursday will be 4 to 6. Friday, we'll practice about 5:30, and I think we can get everything in an hour. Friday's usually pretty short anyway. And then hopefully for next week, other than the coaches will have to work remotely still, a lot of this will finally be behind us. We still may have some players that are displaced, but Talking to them, they seem to be pretty comfortable on campus where they moved them to. The change of scenery, I guess, they think is kind of nice. So we're continuing to push through and work through all the challenges that we have.
Yeah, and I think if there was ever a good time to have a home game, a nearby game, it would be this trip to Belton. It's not too far away, and it makes it much easier than needing to worry about traveling and staying in a new place on Friday after all of that mess. So, kind of shifting into football talk now, you got Mary Hardin Baylor coming up. They won their first game. February 6th was the obviously the first week of the season, and it was a defeat. They defeated Belhaven 41-0. They're usually just one of the powerhouses in Division III football. And now you guys have this kind of the same layoff that they have coming into this matchup. Just what can you tell me about just the challenges of coming into this game, also against probably the toughest opponent on your schedule?
Yeah, what a football program. The championships they've stacked up in the American Southwest and the things they've done nationally. 20 years ago, they decided to put a huge emphasis on football to really save the school, and they've put a lot of resources into it, and they've done a great job. I know all of our coaches love playing these guys because that's why you coach, is for challenges and to measure yourself. They've got another great facility. It's always, whether we play them home or away, it's always in a great facility. What a great opportunity for us to go and see how we stack up against one of the blue bloods, I guess you'd say, in college football. They're not as old as Notre Dame and Alabama and Texas, the other teams in Ohio State that have the high winning percentages. But in the 20 or so years they've played, they have the highest winning percentage of any team in college football across all divisions. They've just done a fantastic job. Now, with that said, I think we're going to play really well against them. I think we have some advantages in some areas, and I'm not trying to create bulletin board material or put my foot in my mouth, because you don't often say that when we talk about playing Mary Hardin Baylor, but I think our defensive line is going to do really well against our offensive line. So I think our front seven of D-line and linebackers are going to do a great job taking away their running game and trying to make them one-dimensional. So I think if we can build upon the second half we had defensively, I think we're gonna do well. Their defense is always the best defense around, and their team speed is unbelievable. But there's some positions where they're not quite as good as they've been either, which I think gives our offense some encouragement. I think we'll be able to do things. So they're going to stop us plenty. I mean, they're very, very good. But I think we'll have the opportunity to create some more offensive opportunities than maybe we have in some games in the past. From an offensive perspective, to maintain drives, no one goes 10, 12 plays against this football team. So field position is a huge thing. But we've been able to, from a game plan standpoint, create more 20, 25-yard plays than a lot of teams have. So hopefully we can do that again. Again, I'm not saying we're the favorite. It's a team that we haven't defeated yet. But I think our players are going to be encouraged, and I think we're going to go give them a good game. Not a lot of folks are able to give them a competitive game, and I really expect us to do that this week.
Yeah, and opponents like this are why you come into the ASC, is because you want to be going up against the best, so you can be claimed as the best. Yeah, when you do beat them. Talking about their individuals, Tommy Bowden is their quarterback, and he went 11 of 23 for 104 yards and 2 touchdowns. So without seeing any game film on him, that screams game control. I'm blanking on the term there for the quarterback. I apologize, but they're really kind of looking more at his rushing ability, because he has 13 carries for 105 yards. He actually ran for more yards than he passed. So when you talk about that kind of dual threat guy that knows how to not turn over the ball with the passing, but also kind of do things with his legs, does that change how you have a defensive philosophy as opposed to a pure pocket passer or maybe a pure runner?
It does, because typically when we design how we're going to stop teams from running the football against us, we try to get in a +1 situation, meaning if they have 5 blockers, we want 6 defenders. When your quarterback becomes a rusher, now the running back becomes a blocker, and that makes it 5-on-5 or 6-on-6 or 7-on-7, which means you have to defeat a block to make the tackle. And the same thing's true with why we historically have tried to run our quarterback so much, and why we recruit quarterbacks who can do those things, is it gives you an even numbers opportunity. So we do have to be very conscious of the fact that he's a very good runner. I would say running is his strength at this point in his career, versus ability just to be a drop back passer. He's very effective in their run pass option game. So we definitely have to account for him. One of their most dynamic parts of their offense this year is going to be his ability to run the football.
You kind of bring up that run pass option, that zone read of sorts has really changed the game here in the 21st century for college football, and it's even worked its way into the professionals. What's your kind of thought of how the game's evolved into that dual threat quarterback where, mostly out of the shotgun because everybody used to run under center, and now that shotgun kind of came into it? As a football coach, when you see the just evolution of the game, how do you have to adapt and just roll with the punches, as you will, because there's some old school guys that probably lost their jobs because they couldn't adapt?
For a long time, the NFL was really hesitant to adopt college football's innovations, and the reason that I became such a college football fan was just the innovation of it. It was just more fun to watch when you know what you're looking at, when you can see all 22 people and know who they're blocking. It was just a way more interesting thing to watch. Within the last 7-8 years, NFL has been bringing in coaches who are willing to bring in these creative features, and it's totally changed, for me, the watchability of the NFL. And now the NFL is starting to innovate again. The NFL used to be, in my opinion, the same offense against the same defense with the same special teams. You wouldn't see a whole lot of variety. And I guess to a non-football coach, you could still root for your team, and you if it looks like 11 guys just running into each other, I guess it doesn't matter what the schematic is. But when you know the schematics, I guess to be a football nerd, the college football game was so much exciting. And of course, thinking about Vince Young, if Vince Young would have come out 10 years later, they would have built an offense around him where he would have been just like Lamar Jackson and just like some other guys, whereas he had to go be cookie cutter in the NFL, where they didn't let him do a whole lot of that. Now, I know he had some personal issues and things, but he really was a trendsetter, right? I mean, if he was 10 years younger, I think it would have, and he was NFL Rookie of the Year, but he couldn't sustain it. But I think now, when you look at Lamar Jackson and you look at Patrick Mahomes and you look at Russell Wilson, NFL teams are finally building their offense around their elite quarterbacks, and even the passers. I mean, it's all built around Aaron Rodgers. It's all built around all the talent that they have at the quarterback position. So I guess that's a long answer to your short question. To summarize, the NFL is watchable again, where to me, it hadn't been watchable for quite a while.
No, that's a great answer, because I was actually looking back at the highlights that I cut up, and I included I can't remember exactly who it was, but there was a really great block by a tackle, and I thought it was the right tackle, but then as I watched the replay, it was actually the left tackle that pulled and needed to be in that position. And, you're just out of luck if he doesn't do that, and it's not the explosive play that makes the highlight reel. And, I'm just always amazed at how many moving parts there are in football. And that's why I think I've kind of found a way to be very neutral and not too critical of these, athletes and these coaches, because it really is one thing where if one player makes a play out of 11, the entire momentum of the play, whether it's going to be a big gain or a penalty or what have you, just changes it. So 1 out of 22 guys can really change every individual play, and any individual play in a football game can be the thing that won or lost you the game. So it's just always interesting to actually hear coaches' perspective on how this game has changed, because I kind of see it as a broadcaster, but you guys are the ones out there actually working with coordinators and position coaches and going through all of those motions, because you have to trust the guys that you bring in at both the coaching and athletic position. So it's always interesting. You can talk as long as you want about those kinds of things, because that's what I've kind of seen in the development of the game, even down to the high school level now, where you kind of really want your quarterback to be dual threat. Just also looking at their running game, it seems like, again, Tommy Bowden was the main rusher, and they have 4 other running backs that got kind of limited carries, nobody more than 10. So, when you talk about those 4 running backs, again, I think we brought this up last 2 weeks ago now. 2 weeks ago now. That seems to be a popular trend in the ASC, just sort of a running back by committee and each individual skill set that goes along with it.
Yeah, I think that's what they're doing. They do have a couple different body types and a couple different skill sets in their varsity backfield, and they're happy to interchange them and have guys come in to be lead blockers for the quarterback. The feature that their offense has is they have elite speed at their wide receiver position. Their slot receiver was a Division I track athlete who decided he wanted to play football, and so he dropped down to play football. And they've got lots of guys like that. They've always been so elite athletically at the wide receiver position that I think that's what they're going to rely on more, is getting the ball to their athletes in space in the perimeter rather than being reliant on generating a ton of production from the running back spot.
Yeah, looking at just kind of some names you'll probably hear, Brad Foley and Colby Blunt were two receivers that combined for just under 80 yards in that defeat against Belhaven. So, they really do share it around, as it looks like there were 5 guys who came up with a catch. So, that's they are one of the more explosive offenses that's hard to stop in this conference. So, when there is sort of that momentum play that they take, what's your approach to kind of pull your sideline together, if you will?
Their team thrives on their defense and field position and special teams, meaning their offense is a benefactor of a lot of short fields. Their defense forced a fumble and recovered it in the end zone against Belhaven. They tackled their punter when he bobbled the snap. It was raining, but another short field. So, Mary Hardin Baylor scored 44 points, but I think they started on Belhaven's half of the field. 40% of their possessions, a lot. So that's why there weren't a whole lot of stats. They didn't have to go very far. And of course, we played games where Mary Hardin Baylor has forced us into a lot of turnovers also. So we have to keep them in a situation where they have a longer field. That's the answer to your question I'm getting to, is don't put them in a position where they can have the one play scoring drive where they can go over the top and get a quick score on a short field. So it's the job of our offense to maintain field position. Their best offensive plays are throw it deep for a quick score and their punt return. Their punt return is unbelievable because it's the same athletes that are their wide receivers. So keep an eye on if when we punt the football, if we can keep them from getting return yards and even return touchdowns. They score multiple touchdowns a year in their punt return game, and that's something we're going to have to do a good job of. So long field, make them go a long way. Don't put them in a position where they can have those big momentum-changing plays.
Well, Coach, I appreciate us figuring out how to always do this show. We're taking a little burden off of the Sheridan. Happy that we can get this live out to the fans. Happy that we have football back. One last question before I let you get into your final thoughts. Weather is supposed to be rain at the moment. Are there any little tricks? I know we kind of talked about the cold, and that never really happened. But are there any tricks to maybe prepare for the rain, because you can't really simulate that in practice?
No, you really can't simulate it, but throughout the course of your player's career, they run across rain. They've got to really prepare for it from a mental standpoint. So we'll talk about it and make sure we're ready for that later on this week. Just as long as we stay away from lightning and lightning delays and lightning cancellations, we're okay. So rain isn't gonna slow it down a whole lot.
Awesome, glad to hear that. And now, are there any final questions before I let you get back to practice?
No, sir. Thanks for being so flexible with us. And thanks again for the Sheridan, who's always such a great host to us. We're trying to stay out of their way. They're working through the pandemic and they're kind of scaling back some operations. So we'll make the most of it. But we're not through partnering with the Sheridan. I had a great conversation today, some email exchanges with Rita Healy, their general manager, who is a really good friend and a great partner for Southwestern as a whole, but also Southwestern football. So we'll be back at the Sheridan, I would hope, sooner than later. We're going to continue to bring them customers, continue to encourage our parents to stay there when they come to town. Such like all of our corporate partners, such a blessing to our football team.
Absolutely, and can't wait until this weekend. Let me just double check the time. I'm pretty sure it's noon, but it is Correct. It is noon.
It's noon, yep.
On Saturday here on SHN Sports. Noon kickoff. Looking forward to it, Coach. Thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you.
All right, we'll see y'all later. Thank you all for joining us on SU Football Weekly with Joe